Good morning, all you grinders out there. Welcome to Guys in a Garage. I am here with Jamison Johnson and JJ Roco, returning fellas.
What's up?
The usuals, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad to be back.
All right. I guess, Jamison, I'll let you take it away.
Oh, yeah.
You're the man with the plan over here.
Well, we just had that topic that we were talking about during coffee today, and I first got introduced to Phil Stutz when I saw that Netflix documentary, right, with Jonah Hill.
Yeah, I've never seen it yet.
Yeah, and I can't remember the name of it, but anyway,
It's just called Stutz.
Yeah, it's called Stutz.
Yeah. It's just his name, last name.
Yeah. So it was just really interesting take on what we'd referred to in men's work as the shadow, calling it Part X, which really is like a counter to our life force, keeping us where we're at in life and telling us that we're not good enough and that we don't want to, or we can't achieve our goals and dreams. So anyway, we just were talking about that a little bit. I'm reading the new book, Coming Alive, and just talks about how you can use these tools, which I think you read the first book, right, JJ?
It's called The Tools, yeah. And
to help counteract that. And one of the first steps really is to talk about labeling Part X when it's impacting you, whether it's an argument you had with your spouse or something didn't go right at work, and you kind of take that personally, and it kind of holds you back and makes you feel depressed or makes you feel like you can't accomplish what you're going after. And the goal being, by labeling it, is a way of overcoming it and continuing to move on in a more positive, more life force type way.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're talking about is basically recognizing the things in life that you have no control over.
Yeah.
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 Learning to say, okay, why am I getting so upset and pissed off right now? Like, there's nothing I can do about this other than to just write it out and solve the puzzle, right? What can I do that is within my control that can in any way affect that? Maybe or maybe not. And if there's nothing, well, then there's nothing, and you just roll with it. And you're like, okay, well, fuck it.
Yep.
If there is something you can do, cool, put forth an effort and try to change you in order to make that thing either go away or at least not impact you as much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and they talk about as well, it just bringing you more into the present,
right,
as recognizing when it's occurring, because one of the things they talk about in the book is how traditional psychology and therapy is around identifying incidents in the past that, yes, either your parents were really on you about certain things and it really affected your self-esteem and things like that, and trying to get some sort of relief and recovery by identifying that. But what they found was that people tend to, it's not a permanent type of relief. And so this was another way of bringing people into the present to be able to identify those things that are happening now,
right, and
be able to make a decision about, okay, that's a way for me to, and actually that I can't remember the name of the Greek god or the analogy or whatever that was. Sisyphus. Yeah. The whole thing about how pushing the boulder up the hill just to have it come back down again is just a way of building up and training your life force in a more positive way and counteracting, and it just becomes easier and easier,
right,
to counteract Part X as you continue to do the labeling and identifying.
Yeah, well, and the more that you push that boulder and you ignore the outside influences that might make you slip and things like that, then you get stronger and stronger as you push that boulder. Yeah. And so it does become easier. Mm-hmm. It's like that guy I was telling you guys about when I asked him how things were going, and he's like, oh, it's like pushing a boulder uphill. And I don't know what made me think of it, but I was just like, once you get the boulder to the top, you get to step out of the way and watch it roll back down without you. And he was just like, huh, yeah. And then I just walked away.
Well, I think there was an existential philosopher. I want to say Camus, but I'm not entirely sure who made this argument that Sisyphus was actually happy, right? That the layman looked at it as, that's a horrible way to spend eternity, like doing a futile activity they just have to keep doing over and over.
Yeah.
But I think it was Camus that argued, like, this is actually something that pleased him, and it wasn't really the definition of hell. But what I think you're saying is, like, that for part X is when the light is on you, the shadow's behind you and you can't see it.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going into the future kind of like blinded by the light, and you don't know what your shadow is. So part of the objective is to bring it out from behind you and put it, in front of you. And so that once you see it, then you can, more properly deal with it and like let it impact in a positive way you being present in the moment.
Right.
Yeah. But I think one of the biggest things about being happy as a man is having challenge.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think the three of us definitely know that and agree on that. If you are not constantly being challenged and you don't have chaos sometimes and shit going wrong, and you're just sitting in comfort all the time and nothing's ever going wrong, you're not really happy. Every once in a while, it's good to have a nice dose of that, but if you just stay there, it's so fucking boring.
Well, that's why I'm grateful for.
And you're not working on yourself. You don't have anything to challenge you. You don't have anything to work towards and overcome.
Absolutely. That's why I'm grateful for these friendships, because it's like you guys challenge me. At the same time, you're willing to let me kind of challenge you in a way, and then we can kind of just do debriefing and recon and see where we go from here. But part X is something, because shadow work is something I just learned about relatively recently. So my shadow's been lurking behind me for most of my life. So for me to even like get it out in front is going to be kind of in piecemeal, right? I'm not going to see the whole shadow in front of me at once, I don't think.
And it can take on so many different forms as well too. In men's work that I was in before, definitely talking about keeping your shadow in front of you. But it could be, your shadow could be your little boy self, getting triggered by an event that it reminds you of a time when you were little, and you identify that through process, and from there you have a protocol and a process that you'd use to work to just kind of put your arm around your little boy and be like, I got this.
Yeah.
And just to reassure him, because another thing about shadow is that it's a lot of times there to protect you. You've been hurt before. It's just a program you've been running that it's okay. I'm facing this same challenge again. I need to protect myself. So you say things, or you take action that it isn't necessarily in your best interest, but it's what and what's going to protect you, and so you do that, and if you're trying to build your life force, it's just identifying it and taking ownership and reassuring your little self or whatever it is that you got this moving forward.
It sounds like the shadow wants you in your comfort zone.
Oh yeah. Of course it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about it. Your shadow is that thing that's always there behind you. And it's constantly trying to pull you to where you're just settled, I guess.
So, Andy Frisella talks about the bitch voice, the voice inside your head. Is how compare and contrast the shadow with the bitch voice.
Well, that's the thing I see. I've read so many books. We talked about the slight edge, and it's like, Andy talks about the bitch voice, and it's like the shadow, the part X, the telling you I can't do this, the telling me it's better to stay inside. The weather's crappy. I'm not going to go do my workout or whatever it is. Having that comfort, not exposing yourself to pain. And whereas with the opposite, we talk about life force, the slight edge, like I'm going to make that choice that's going to maybe not be easy, but it's going to put me on a path to where I'm going to live to my full potential.
Right. Well, the slight edge is actually, I think if I recall it correctly, talking about how both choices in the moment are equally as easy, but just one of them has the foresight of the future in mind, right? So it's just as easy, for us to have a cup of cottage cheese as it is to have, this bagel or donut at the same time. And, if we eat the donut, it's not going to kill us on the spot.
Right.
Usually.
It's not going to have that immediate impact.
Unless it's made by Pfizer. and
You're trying to get this episode pulled too? Come on.
And the cottage cheese isn't going to necessarily make us lose 10 pounds like we want to. But so each decision in the moment is probably equal difficulty.
Yep.
But the one that is ultimately healthier, and we all kind of intuitively know better for us in the long run, is what will give you that slight edge over time.
Yep.
Right? So I think that actually is very empowering, right? Because if you really were to sit down before you went to bed and try to write out or remember all the little tiny decisions you made in any given day, and how maybe one or two or more than that, we're in the wrong direction from getting you to this future self you want to be, then you can maybe be, okay, next time I'm presented with these choices, I might go in the other direction.
Well, what an invitation as well, too, to just slow down. Being as fast-paced as we are, and as it puts us in a position to where we're very reactive, right? And something hits us and triggers us without taking a breath and thinking for a second. Just giving yourself a few seconds to really think about it.
Learning how to take a breath.
Yeah.
And to be non-reactive and be more proactive, and learning how to deal with shit like that. That's going to come up because it always does.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
And how much does that feel empowering, right? And once again, in a world where so much is out of our control,
right,
to actually empower ourselves with taking the action instead of always just playing defense with reaction.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And not only with yourself, but with your relationships, whether it's friends or a significant other or anything else. The more you can put that away and just say, okay, I'm fine. This is fine. What's going on right now? How do I deal with this? Instead of,
Yeah. Well, you got ego in there, and you want to defend yourself right away, or if it doesn't sound like you've got a quick comeback, that you're not as with it or whatever as you need to be,
right,
to prove your point or whatever.
Yeah, it's all about,
but that's the thing, is it depends. First, in order to be offended or to be defensive about something, you have to, in some level, believe that whatever it is that's happening to you or something that someone is saying is truth. So when you learn how to be non-reactive and don't give a shit about what people have to say about you, then it becomes so much easier to say, no, that's not true.
Wasn't that one of Wayne Dyer's things? The first question is is it true?
Yeah.
When you hear it.
Yep.
Yeah. You're reminding me also of the saying that they used to have in AA. Is do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I would rather be happy.
Yeah. Right. And so many people just want to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to, have a rebuttal for everything. Mm-hmm. You really don't. And it doesn't matter what somebody thinks about you, whether it's true or not. If it doesn't really change your life in any way, one way or the other, then why even respond at all?
Yeah, that's another saying in AA too. It's what other people think of me is none of my business.
Right. Yeah. Right? Yes, exactly. It's none of my fucking business.
Wayne Dyer says that too. Yeah. And just the how he says, if somebody brings up something that is triggering, or that it's completely the opposite of what you believe, then it's just hey, thanks for bringing that to my attention. It's something I'll consider or look into, and then you could be done with it. You know? And then
that's part of having a good conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you feel that way. It's not what I believe, but let's talk about that for a second. Maybe you can change my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that breath is critical, because breath is what gives you the space, right, between feeling that you are this emotion that's been triggered, that is defining you, and you're not the person who's observing yourself having the emotion.
Yeah.
Right? It's oh, this upset you. Yep. Okay, well, thanks, body and mind, for pointing it out that this is something I might need to work on, that this is a trigger. But you're just so lost in the moment. You're the central character in this narcissistic, egocentric world. And you're just this is angering me. I'm triggered. Mm-hmm. And it's external to me that's the problem.
Right.
It's I need to get this irritating environment, whatever it might be, away from me, because then I'll be fine, because I'm fine. I'm not the problem.
Yeah. Well, I think what people forget obviously these days and get so hung up on is feeling like, you know, controlling all your emotions and everything. And the thing is, you know, your main emotions, especially when it comes to being offended by something, stems from your own core values and your own core beliefs. I mean, that's where that comes from. And so a lot of times, no, you cannot control whether or not you're going to be pissed off about something that someone says. You just can't. If you feel that way, then that's how you feel. And that's because, you know, your brain has said, well, blah, blah, blah. And so you get that adrenaline rush and that immediate, you know, reaction of, you know, that stems from, what is that? You know, anxiety, right? So that you can't control. But what you can control is taking that small breath and learning to just not react and let it flow. Be in it, feel it for a second. Like, that's perfectly fine. But it's how you control yourself and say, okay, I'm not going to react to this. I'm not going to get pissed off and start yelling at somebody. You know, I'm going to take a second and then we're going to discuss this, if it even matters to you. Otherwise, you can just feel what you feel for a second, take a breath and be like, well, sorry you feel that way, and then fucking walk off. Yep. But everybody lives in this fucking zone these days where they have to be right and they have to respond to everything just because they don't agree with it. Why? It's such a waste of your fucking time.
Yeah. Well, another thing I took from the book is that letting Part X kind of run your life is a way of seeing the world as a very bad place. Yeah. You know, and it's all about vibration, and we talk about that, and it's just when you can identify Part X shadow and something that I'm working on, and just focusing on raising my life force, raising my vibration, then you start to see the world differently. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, you really do.
Well, you're making an argument that you would be grateful for Part X because Part X is actually the negative representative telling you the direction you need to go.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's what it talks about.
It's also like the mainstream media that, like, you just believe the opposite of what they report, and you're going to know the truth.
Right. Part X is not a bad thing.
No.
It really isn't. But it's all in how you interpret it, and it's how you use it to better yourself.
Right? Yeah, Part X is always like, oh, you know what? You just get to the gym right before the session starts. You don't need to take that 5-minute cold shower. You did one, a couple of days ago. You don't need to do it all the time. Yeah. So I'm just like, oh, you're just telling me. You're telling me I have to take the cold shower now because you just told me I shouldn't do it.
Well, if you want to really get out there too, it's just like, why are we here? Are we here to just be comfortable and, just have everything go our way?
No.
Or are we here to challenge ourselves, to grow, to, have our soul develop? And that's the way of if you can identify it and see, oh, yeah, this thing is a counterforce to me showing growth and potential. And so I can build off of that. I can counteract it. I can do the hard work, do whatever it is to grow in these areas.
Yeah. If you're not constantly trying to grow and learn and do things for yourself and make yourself better, you're already dead inside. Just nobody's told you.
Yep.
Right. It's more of a fear of living than a fear of dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? You just don't want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, it's fairly profound.
Mm-hmm.
God, there's something that slipped my mind again that you guys are reminding me of. I don't know. It'll come back.
Something to do with Andy Frisella?
No, it's nothing.
I need to listen to that guy more.
Yeah, it's a lot of profanity. He likes his profanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Bettering yourself, shadow work.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Just a senior moment here. I'm the only one getting the AARP magazine in this group, so.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm only about maybe a quarter of the way through the book, so I'm excited because the next steps are tools that you can use, because there's apparently 4 different areas where people really are challenged, right, by Part X. And I can't, even though I read them this morning, I can't
So the one that I remember from the book, The Tools, he's talking about having the shadow right there with you when you're going to actually present to like another group. So I didn't even say
is that the book you guys are talking about, The Tools?
There's two of them. They wrote two. He's on the second book already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is, remind me the name of that one? I have it.
Coming Alive.
Coming Alive.
Coming Alive and The Tools.
Yeah.
So you can actually, if you go on YouTube, there's a pretty good interview with Stutz on The Tools, and he kind of goes through them and talks about. I mean, one of the most profound things I think I took from that interview, and maybe it's in the book too, is just that there's always going to be challenge in life, always. So it's kind of like, Andy says, pick your hard.
Okay.
Are you gonna? Is it too hard to work out? Or is it going to be hard when you can't get up?
Did I show you that diagram, right? That cartoon of like suffer or suffer. Like half of them is like the obese guy, half of them is like the buff guy. It's like either way, you're suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, JJ, I derailed you earlier. What were you saying?
No. So to answer your question, like why are we here? Why are we alive? And we kind of agree that, and part of the reason I think we're been friends is one of our values is personal growth, right? So we're interested all in like some type of self-improvement. But what I think has been an implied objective of why we're here, and now it's kind of coming overt, is immortality. I think people are here to become immortal, to like live forever. Now in the past, how'd they do that? Well, they made a name for themselves. They became a historic figure, right? So that when all the government school kids open their books, they're going to see like a dates and names and pictures of Theodore Roosevelt or whoever it might be that's a historic figure. So I think it's been implied like you want to get your names in the history books, right?
But I think some of the greatest ones were guys who didn't give a shit about being in the history books.
Right.
They did it because they just did it.
Or they just write you out of history because you don't go along with their narrative.
Oh, yeah.
There's no Wilhelm Reich shows or anything like that in the history books.
So you realize eventually, if you get to a mature enough point, that immortality is not the objective. But I think it's been implied for such a long time, right? You want to make a name for yourself. Oh, this little baby can be president. Like, why do you give a shit? Why would you put that upon like a little baby? Why would you want that? That's something so bad for them, right?
I know.
My little baby's going to be another devil. Like, why would you do that to the kid, right? So it's like, I think because we all have been told or indoctrinated to believe that immortality is the way. But now it's come to the forefront with transhumanism. Like now we'll be immortal once we blend ourselves and mix ourselves with the silicon world, right? So that we're now part AI, we have the brain chip or whatever, that now we don't forget about cryogenics and, freezing your head or whatever. You can just put your brain, mold it with a cyborg, and now you'll be immortal and you'll live forever. So,
or you could just take a vaccine and you'll live forever.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to do it right there.
In the statistics books. Well, you didn't specify the type of vaccine.
Are you going to try to figure out how many times you can say vaccine?
Actually, I was thinking about it, yeah. What exactly do we have to say to get another episode
I thought that I was trying to be careful and always use the term experimental injections. I thought I was doing that a pretty good job, but apparently not. Or people like to say jabs.
Yeah, the jab.
The people that my wife listens to, they're just like talking in code, like C-V and F-L-U, like they're spelling out. It's the shots.
I'd rather just say it.
Yeah, well, but I think that it's another level of maturity, right? And to answer your question, Dave, the reason why people are having all these arguments and being so childish is because maturity is not valued in our culture.
No, it's not.
It's like,
it definitely is not. We spend so much time and energy trying to stay children forever.
Right.
Whereas, back in the old days, and we're talking like, the 1600s, if not earlier. I mean, for up until like the 1900s somewhere, 12 was an adult. And mostly because a lot of us only lived till our 30s if we were lucky, but still,
And pre-child labor laws.
Yeah, and pre-child labor laws. And I understand the whole thing of, childhood is a gift and, enjoy every second of it while you got it. And that's very true. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you have to start learning how to be an adult and how to care for yourself before you try to care for others. And nobody fucking teaches that anymore.
Well, there's no incentive to be an adult. what's the incentive to be mature? Because then you're going to take responsibility, because no one wants responsibility.
To pay taxes and go to work.
Exactly.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't compute, kind of a thing, right?
We all want, the government wants us all to be children under their parenthood, right? A parenthood where they're never wrong.
Right.
So what kind of children are we going to be?
But we turned adulthood into something that doesn't compute. It's not something that just makes any sense. And we, the only way we know how to refer back to is where we were comfortable, and typically that's childhood, right? And
the only good thing about being an adult is you get to drink, smoke, go wherever you want, do whatever you want, as long as the government says it's okay, and fuck, sleep, and eat.
Yeah, and a lot of those things aren't very good for you. Right? And
well, sleeping and eating, you did as kids.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can sleep
stress.
whenever you want. You can eat whatever you want.
So it's going back to childhood, it's interesting, because what do you think about the fact that when you have a baby, right, there's certain milestones, right? So it's so many months, they're rolling over onto their stomach, and so then they're sitting up or holding their head up, then they're walking with assistance, then they're walking, then they're driving, whatever, right? What about milestones for adults? Like, now you reach your chronological age. Are there no milestones for adults? Like
21, 25, you can rent a car.
Yeah, right.
But I mean,
65, you can start collecting Social Security. I think that's it.
But at 65,
at some point you'll get those AARP letters, and you can hit the seniors menu at the restaurant.
But that's not showing like psychological or spiritual like maturity, right? You could be a 65-year-old and still be, as caught in the matrix, or still be as childish.
Well, that's how we talk.
I plan on being childish at 65. There's no question.
Well, that's what they talk about in the book too. It's people in their 60s and 70s still blaming their parents for their situation in life, and it's just
it's like, dude, you've been on Earth 70 years. You've had more than enough time to figure your shit out. Stop
and to just let it go, and try to figure out. Everybody's different, right? And that's another thing that working on for myself is just the whole thing about judgment and just but there's just you have empathy, and you just like you're getting close to the end, right? I mean, it's maybe time to look at another perspective and see if there's some way that you can give yourself some relief.
Do you think it's harder to give yourself some relief and look at another perspective as time goes on? So like the older person is more entrenched in their ways and have like a less capacity to change?
I think it depends on the person for sure, and it depends on your core values, your core beliefs, how you were raised, and whether or not you are capable of looking within for answers instead of blaming everybody else for your shit. As I've learned, right, since I have begun to change my mindset and have gotten older and learned things, and and met guys like you, and as long as I've been in counseling and everything else, like, as I age, it becomes easier for me to step outside of my ways. Whereas that old saying, if you can't teach an old dog new tricks, like, it depends on the person. I learn new tricks every day, and I feel like if I'm not, then I'm doing something wrong. And I think with age comes wisdom, I think.
Well, and I just think that our society, we don't support, we don't include our elders as much in, they're kind of outcast, really, right? And kind of on their own, and we put them in homes and things like that, where whatever during your lifetime, it just that seems to be the most suitable route, right? It's I'm not saying that's judging or saying that's a bad thing for people, but that's something that wasn't what we used to do.
Right. That's also a cultural thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the culture, in Eastern cultures, like the grandma and grandpa are living with you.
Yeah,
all the way to
you
the end.
used to be
isn't it like Japan, where they have that law that they don't even have old folks homes? If they can't care for themselves, then they have to live with you, and you got to take care of them until they die.
You're probably right.
It's either Japan or China. One or the other has that, but that's one of the only good things, if it is China, that I appreciate.
There was this book I read a long time ago. I think it was called The Element, and it was discussing this place in Nebraska that had the idea to commingle, if you will, a retirement home and a nursery school. And so you'd have like these retired people that would get the exposure to like these little kids and like read them stories, and the little kids would get exposure to like, grandparent like figures. And then they also would learn the facts of life at an early age, like Grandpa Joe isn't here today because he's not feeling well or he passed away.
Yeah.
And so they can learn about it. And that just seemed to be so fulfilling for both ages of the end, both ends of the age spectrum.
Well, that was a traditional family, right? When the able-bodied adults, the parents, they would be the, bringing in income or whatever it was to support the family, whereas
hunting, gathering.
Yeah. While the elders were more of making sure that, the kids were taken care of or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The elders were teaching the valuable lessons most of the time and taking care of the children while the able-bodied went out and did what needed to be done.
Right.
I just think we're just part of this shadow, or part X is recognizing our selfishness, right?
Yeah.
It's just putting it out there and be like, look, we're selfish, and we can rationalize all we want, like being selfish. But the truth is we're selfish, right? That the amount of time and energy and frustration that I'd have to invest in taking care of my elderly loved one, right, is rationalized by the fact that, she's in better hands with like a professional, right? These people are professional, they have a home, they got it all set up, right?
Well, and you've got these other responsibilities, right? I've got to make sure that I've got a pot of nest egg or whatever it is to support myself when I get to that age, right? Because I don't want to impose that on my children or whatever. And then at the same time, we've got daughters. It's like getting them through college, getting them, if they get married, whatever it is, making sure they've got a good start. It's just a lot of things to try to manage and
well, it's a lot of youth worship, right? So now we prioritize the young over the old. Like, why? Because you're a potential taxpayer and you're a former taxpayer, right? You're now like a Kissinger useless eater over here in the nursing home.
Yeah.
I mean, dude,
everything is all about save the children, save the children.
You want to talk about heartbreaking, right? So for Thanksgiving, my mother-in-law's in this assisted living facility, and we're not a big family. It's basically just the three of us, my wife, our daughter, and me, and then my mother-in-law. And so we went there for Thanksgiving. We went to the nursing home. We had Thanksgiving there. It was very nice. They did a good job. And as tradition would have it, go around and like say something that you're like thankful for. Well, when it got to my mother-in-law, she's like, I'm thankful for my family. And it was just heartbreaking because it's like your family, our family, we put you here and you're not around family like all the time, right? You're around strangers and you don't even want to interact with those people. So you're just interacting with staff. Yeah. So it was just like heartbreaking for me to hear that. But I don't know. I mean, we just don't have, the capability to simultaneously prep for the end of the world and like support someone who's now incontinent.
Yeah.
Right. So, I don't know. It's a tough situation. I don't know if there's a good solution, but I will acknowledge that part X of me is like selfish. So my selfishness is to take care of my wife. And I know how much it would tax her and just take all of her energy and life force to take care of her mom, right? And she would have nothing left for her husband or daughter or anything else. So it's like, for my selfishness is like, I need to do what I can to protect my wife, and I'm going to support this, assisted living professional level of care, which she's got the insurance to cover, right? She's been doing the long-term care insurance. She paid into it. So it's like, how else are you going to get that money if it's there?
Right. Well, and that's the other side of that coin too, not only from a financial and time commitment, but then there's also the traumas or whatever that are from the past, that it just makes it so much more challenging and to be able to care for this person or whatever, just given the past, given what's whatever conflicts or whatever occurred in the past.
I hope and pray that a lot of those have been processed. I think they have, but some of them are pretty more profound than I can even relate to. Just being the son-in-law.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do we get on this subject? This is kind of...
My parents aren't there yet, so I don't have a leg to stand on in this conversation.
Myself.
Well, and I think it can tie back to the fact that we talked about personal development. We talked about just making sure that we're putting ourselves in the best position to where we're as healthy as we can be for as long as we can be. We're as sharp. Right. We're as, there's that whole thing about trying to achieve retirement and being able to play golf or travel or whatever it is, and that's great. It would be, I think, keeping that constant growth mindset and figuring out a path where you can continue that and be in that capacity to be able to do that, because I think that's going to increase your longevity and in your health and all those things, rather than just kind of fading away. I don't know.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's challenges. I mean, just challenges. Overcoming life's challenges is, I think, what gives it so much of fulfillment. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is what's fulfilling, is accomplishing goals. If you don't have any goals to look forward to, and you don't have anything to, swat at and challenge yourself and accomplish, then the fuck is the point? Mm-hmm. Again, get out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Do stuff that maybe you normally wouldn't do because you're scared of it. Like, go bungee jumping, go skydiving, go to some place that, where there's tons of people and you don't necessarily like people. Mm-hmm. Go up to the hot girl at the bar and go talk to her for no fucking reason at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you want to start a workout program and put your shoes on.
Yeah. And even baby steps. Just put those shoes on and go for a walk around your neighborhood a few times.
That's James. That's James Clear, Atomic Habits, right? So he talks about in the book that if you want to run a marathon, you've been sitting on the couch eating Cheetos for like months. The first week, all you do is put on your shoes. Mm-hmm. Like that's how baby step it is. Yeah. You don't even run. Yeah. You just put on your shoes, right? But we're so time constricted. Think about the stuff we watch, right? Yeah. It's like in the first 5 minutes, like if this show isn't going, like it's not action packed enough for me, if it's not going the right direction, like I'm finding another show. Yep. There's millions of shows out there. I'll find something else, right? So we want it quick. We want it like the lottery. Mm-hmm. Like we want the shortcuts.
That's something that I have done in the last, in the last month, but maybe a little bit longer, is not turning on my TV.
Oh yeah.
Not very often anyway.
I'm sure you're subjectively more happy.
Yeah. You know how much time I have found, like, every day now that I don't do that?
Oh, yeah. Tons.
I mean, if I'm already tired or whatever, and I know, like, I'm not doing shit. Yeah, I'll turn it on. I'll watch a couple shows before bed. But otherwise, not turning on that TV gives me so much time to sit down, play my guitar, or read a book, or... I mean, fuck, I'm never home anymore anyways. So if I'm not watching TV and doing those things, or cleaning, like meal prepping, stuff like that, then I'm usually either out on my bike or I'm out around doing something. Yep.
What's so funny is that, you have YouTube up there. Like YouTube, you can get a subscription where you pay additional, much like Pandora or Spotify, to not get ads. Whereas the truth is about TV, it's really just one constant ad.
Yeah.
Like everything, it may not look like an infomercial, but let me tell you, whatever these things are called, quote, news, they're bookended by nothing but commercials. Yep. And then, you could take someone from Mars and they sit them down in front of an ABC newscast for half an hour and be like, what did I just watch? Did I just watch a pharmaceutical commercial? Did I interspersed with like little bits of factoids? Or did I watch, quote, news, sponsored by the pharmaceutical company, many companies? It's like, you can't tell the difference. Yeah. If you put it on the clock, there's probably equal amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I don't have cable or satellite, because I thought about it and I'm like, I'm paying to have all these channels, but what am I paying for? I'm literally paying to watch fucking ads, which drive me nuts anyway.
Right.
So when I watch TV, it's usually like Freevee, Pluto, or Tubi, because that still has ads, but at least I'm not fucking paying for them.
Right. If you're gonna, And so the next question would be like, when they find out which one of these ads you click on, which one of these products you buy, because they know like your cable account is attached to your credit card name. Mm-hmm. Now they got more info on you. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. One of the things my wife is upset about, and I didn't see it at the time because this took place years ago, and that is probably on me. Our intellectual curiosity got the best of us, and we, like many others, participated in voluntarily, right? Ancestry.com.
Sucker.
So now, of course, she's upset because that's all government information.
Yeah.
Right? So they know the details of our genetics.
They got you.
And if they wanted to craft a certain type of biowarfare agent, that just took out certain people of a genetic profile, I guess they have that information to do that. So
that is interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder how much of all that info on everybody in the world that Wuhan got.
I don't think we found out anything interesting from it either. Like maybe like my wife's got like a 0.04% to like Ashkenazi Jew or something weird like that. That's the only thing that we found out that was of remote interest that we didn't know. Everything else, I think we pretty much already knew.
I can't remember if I did it or I may have done it at some point. I think my mom did it too, though. But I am pretty much all European mutt. Like, there's nothing special about me.
Yeah, I think we're all mutts. But I wonder if Ancestry has as much information as like 23andMe. We never did 23andMe. 23andMe sounded like a little bit more detailed. Like you might be able to make a better bioweapon if you went to 23andMe instead of Ancestry. Ancestry seemed a little more vague and generalized. Anyways, can't do anything about the past now.
Right.
No.
It's done is done.
Yeah.
It's in a database somewhere in New Mexico.
Right. Just let it be a learning experience for the future, I guess.
Don't give in.
Yeah. Well, don't give any more information than you need to.
Well, it's that curiosity, right? And I want to say, because I had a couple of stepsisters that I found out about probably... I'd always kind of known about them, but I'd never been introduced to them. And then in the last like 5 years, I got introduced to one, and then shortly after that, a couple other another one, and they had different fathers. So we all had the same mother, but we all had different fathers. And the third one, she didn't know that the other two of us even existed. So I knew that the other two existed, and then the second. My sister below me, she knew that the two of us existed, but the third one, she didn't know that the other two of us existed. So anyway, I guess she went on like a 23andMe and found out that she was related to some people in Italy, right? Or Italian heritage back there. And so she had been doing some investigating, calling around, and found family back there who had put her in touch with another family member here in the States who knew my uncle, who then she was able to get in contact with, and then that kind of started that whole setup. So I think there's just right there is a huge benefit, I think, of that. Like you said, we already kind of know. I already kind of know my heritage, so I don't think I would ever do one of those things. But there's one story.
I don't think you've taken the benefit far enough, because you met with these half siblings.
I actually just talked to them on the phone. I haven't met with them. One of them lives in Tennessee. The other one lives in LA.
Because it'd be fascinating, because when you're speaking, Jamison, I'm thinking like this, your half siblings is maybe the closest opportunity for you to be able to become acquainted with your mom. Because if you see like your mom or see characteristics that are common, and it's just like be weird, like talking to them and be in a way like because you never knew your mom, right?
I got to see her before she passed away for about a year, but it was just on 2 visits, really. So, and that was a long time ago. That was 25 years ago. So.
That's if you believe you can meet someone that's no longer in existence through like their progeny, if you will. I sometimes think, because I know my mother-in-law, but my father-in-law passed away, before I met my wife, and so sometimes when I see the difference between how her mom is and how she is, like I think like that's me getting to know her dad a little bit.
Yeah,
like that's. I just imagine it like these are characteristics that she must have gotten from her father, right? So I was just wondering that would be a cool experience to be with them, or maybe you can hear it just in their voice, but of course you know how different it is than being in person.
Well, and that's something for me that it brings up another area that I'd like to experience some growth in. Just I feel like, because I have 2 other brothers and 2 other sisters from my stepmom, right? And I'm the oldest, all the way down to my youngest brother is like 11 years younger than me. And, we all have married now, have families and everything. And I find it difficult to carve out time to call them or spend time with them. And it's been going that way for a long time, since I left home. And just another two sisters, it's that saying, is it an opportunity or is it an obligation? Right. And so having you said that, it just reminded me that really is an opportunity for me.
It's funny that you talk about carving out time for family, because I've been meaning to call my sister for weeks, and she's like 2 hours ahead of me, and I keep forgetting that, and so by the time I'm like, oh yeah, I need to call her, like it's already way too late. Yeah. So I need to be more mindful of that and try to actually do it. But carving out time, like, I mean, how much time do you really need? Even if it's 5-10 minutes, just to call somebody and say, hey, I was thinking about you. Just wanted to say hello and talk. Like, I mean, 5-10 minutes, it's less than a workout.
Yep. Well, now you can just send a text and be like, hey, I was thinking about you. A good time for you to have a call. Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you can take 5 minutes to determine whether or not this might be an hour conversation.
Well, I mean, even if all you have is 20 minutes, just tell them as soon as you get on the phone, like, hey, I only got like 20 minutes, but I just wanted to say hello, miss you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar to nurturing a habit, right? To nurturing a relationship.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know, sometimes I consider friends similar.
I'm horrible with like long distance relationships. I never call anybody.
Well, you hope that type of relationship is like the cactus, right? That you only need to water it like very few times a year.
Yeah, I have a lot of those.
Whereas there's some friendships that are like orchids, where it's like you got to tend to it like very frequently. Otherwise, that thing's going to freaking die. Yeah. So, I mean, that's how I kind of look at it. It depends on the friend.
Yeah, it does depend on the friend. My friend Barry, I talk to him maybe once or twice a year. Yeah. We text every once in a while, but he's one of those dudes where I haven't talked to him in 9 months, and then for whatever reason, one of us will call the other. Yeah. And we'll talk for 20-30 minutes, and it was like we just talked yesterday. Yeah. And then we hang up and we don't talk to each other for months. Yeah. That's how it always goes.
That's how I think of like a cactus friendship, right? Yeah. You don't really need like a lot of maintenance.
Right. Yeah. Right? That's what that is.
So it might be something where the people that we're reluctant to call or connect with, it might be like, this is like redoing this is like repotting the plant. This is like starting all over again. It's like, is it really going to be worth all the effort? Because I know I'm probably not going to get away with a 10-minute conversation if I haven't spoken to them in so long. They're going to need more attention and more nourishing. And then you're silently evaluating from your point of view, your selfish point of view. It's like, well, what am I ultimately going to get out of this? Right? Well, if you think of it that way, then it's like, okay, maybe you're taking the wrong approach, and maybe that's never going to overcome your resistance to making that phone call.
I think I try to look at it as, and I'm not saying that I'm any good at it, but who cares about the time? It's like this podcast. I mean, half the time we come in here and we sit down and we're like, okay, yeah, we got about an hour and a half.
Yeah. It's 3 hours later.
Yeah. 2-3 hours later. And, oh shit.
Right.
Well, the golf course is calling our name today.
I know, right? So. Yeah. But I mean, okay, so you allot 15-20 minutes for a phone call. Well, if it goes over, it goes over. Why stop if you're having a good time and you're catching up? Right. Okay, I mean, unless you're going to be late for something, who gives a shit?
Right.
Yeah. The truth is
I think catching up with people who, especially that you care about, is always good for the soul. So don't put too much emphasis on a timer, and just do it. Don't worry about, well, I haven't talked to them in so long. Maybe they're going to be mad at me because I haven't talked to them who cares? Yeah. Just call them and talk to them. At least you're doing something. You're trying.
Right. That's part X.
Yeah.
Part X saying that they're going to hang up on you, or they're going to be mad at you, or whatever. It's
or like, call them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, like I said, I haven't talked to my sister in forever, and I keep forgetting to fucking call her. But I know once I finally do, and I talk to her, I mean, she is basically a female version of me. So we'll probably end up on the phone for an hour or two and be like, oh shit, it's late. We got to go. Okay. Right. But it's the same thing with my friend Barry. Like, I could call her tomorrow and it'll be like we just talked yesterday. And I know that, even though I do have that thing that's like, man, I haven't talked to her forever. I don't know. This is going to be, I don't give a shit. Well, I love my sister.
It simultaneously is giving you two different directions, right? It's like, yeah, I know.
Right, but which one are you going to listen to? You know, that's the important part.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if part X is telling you, like, you know what, you'll be fine if you call her in 2 weeks from now, because like you said, you guys, doesn't take long, you catch up and it's like no time has passed between your conversations. Well, if that's part X, if you're acknowledging that's part X telling me that, then and we've kind of agreed that like doing the opposite of what part X tells you, that means like
but
you pick up the phone like as soon as you can.
Exactly, but you're using part X as an informational tool instead of it allowing to control you. That's the important part.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, up until this point, it sounds like in this particular subject, part X is winning. And I have the same people on my mind too. I mean, I have similar people that are relatives on my mind that I've been thinking for over a week I need to call.
Yeah.
Right? And I haven't. So, and because part X is saying like, you can call them later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'm not disobeying part X. It's like there maybe is a certain limit, like your gas tank of like willpower, like how much you can use on certain things, right? So now for what's been brought to the forefront, is on the front burner, is this 40 hard challenge, which is mostly, physical challenge, right? And diet and exercise can be summarized. So that is like where I'm going to spend my gas, where I'm going to spend my willpower. So that's what I'm going to spend. So when it comes to other things that are coming in from the side, it's like, you know what, I'll deal with it later, right? Because like this isn't involved in my front focus right now. Like, so I need to use what willpower I have to get this objective done. And once it's accomplished, whereas that's a false way of thinking too, right? You should kind of live every day as if it's like your last on earth to be fulfilled.
Yes. Agreed.
And so like, if you're going to do that, then it's like do not go to sleep with like any willpower left in your tank. Right. And so if it's a matter of like people that you need to call and people that you need to have a conversation with that it's been bugging you, it's like, I should do it as soon as I can. Right. So I don't want part X like to be like hovering over my deathbed and going like, I won.
Well, and does this 40 hard program make it an excuse to where everything else can be put off? And I mean, it's a question, right? Because it's a challenge and it's going to be over in 40 days. And then what?
Exactly. Then I'm going to yo-yo back to where I was.
Are we? Right? Are you?
I don't know. I would like to think not. But
or is this going to be a way that we live going forward and not be too hard on ourselves if we slip or whatever? But it's just having that we'll have at that point put a nice rhythm in place and building blocks and hopefully can start to see the slight edge and everything of our of our commitments for the last 40 days. But yeah.
40 Hard is one of the reasons it's a great program is it gives you this menu of different things you can do on any given day as your fifth task, right?
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be a progress picture selfie with your shirt off like it's 75 hard. You can do like a random act of kindness. So if you want to rationalize, calling your semi-demented, housebound uncle and having a long conversation with a random act of kindness, then it's part of 40 Hard.
Right.
It's not separate from it. So I don't know. There's still something there that I don't know. It's still part X. He gets little victories here and there. It's not like it's not like I win or part X wins. It's like, I sometimes win and he sometimes wins. So I don't know. It's always room for improvement, right?
Yeah, always.
So we talked a little bit about diet before, and like maybe you have bread or whatever you're saying. Well, one of my edges is keeping a dietary journal. I hate it. I've done it. I can't have a hard time doing it, but that is part X telling me this is probably what I should try and do more, right? And it's like, how can you improve on that? Okay, well, I just write down piece of chicken or something that I ate. Like, well, what part of the chicken was it? Did it have bone in, skin on? If you really want to look it up in the book, how many grams of protein it was and carbs and fat and all that stuff, there's always another level I can take it. But for right now, it's just like writing it down in general is hard for me. So I know that that's where I should go, right? Part X is telling me not to do it. So it's like, okay, go in that direction.
It's too hard. It's, it's just too much of a hassle. I don't want to be tied to this stuff. And it's just like, well, it's what are your goals? Has that worked for you in the past?
Yeah.
Probably not. So it's probably time to make a change and make a choice, right? That's the other thing about Part X and just part of life is that we always have a choice. And what are we going to choose?
Yeah, having a goal is the most important thing. Because even if you work towards it very quickly or at a snail's pace, as long as you're comfortable with the progress that you're making, that's what's important.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes, as the saying goes, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah,
right.
Because once you reach your goal, you're going to be like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like I got to look for another goal.
Right.
And that's what I love about those classes, those that just having that camaraderie and just similar goals and just being just a part of something is pretty cool.
Yes, because that's something that I never do. Like when I go to the gym, it's all just an isolated event, and I'm probably one of the few people, if not the only one, that's not wearing headphones, right? Everyone's got like their earbuds in and they isolate themselves even more, but I don't do that when I'm working out. So to be in a group class and to have other people in this whole experience is nice because you're making human connections, right? And to support each other with a common objective, right?
Yeah.
And that's back to the conversations we've had in the past. It's like, it's a combination of collaboration and competition, right? You're kind of like competing to like build each other up,
right,
but you're also like collaborating, like encouraging each other on the same path towards, better physical health.
Yeah. Healthy competition and support.
Yeah, exactly. Not like the cutthroat type of competition and stuff.
Yeah, it's exactly what a lot of men, if not most of them these days, lack.
Yeah.
Healthy competition and support.
I gotta use the lavatory, pardon me.
Well, I mean, we're about an hour right now. We can wrap this up and start heading to the golf course if you guys want.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for listening. Hope you had a good time with it. And we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.